Okay, so I'd like to talk a little bit about how I came to discover that I have MDS. Because why should it come up? What symptoms do I have that somehow triggered that I should discover that I have MDS? So what happened was like this. I think maybe sometime last year, I vaguely recall that I was trying to like bring in some groceries. I only have like a few steps, and I remember bringing in the groceries from the car to the house and just being out of breath. And I thought like I'm just really out of shape. I really need to start getting into shape. Maybe like it was like a few months later. At some point, someone in my community posted. He's a personal trainer that you could do one-on-one training with him. He has a gym in his basement, and instead of me, let's say, signing up for Planet Fitness and trying to figure things out for myself by watching YouTube videos, etc., if I have a personal trainer, it might be possible for me to get into things the right way. Have a personal trainer guide me. It happens to be that this person is also he works as a medical, like in the field of medicine a little bit, and if anything would happen to me while I'm working out, he'd be able to coordinate my health back. So what I ended up doing is I signed up with this personal trainer. Now he does CrossFit style exercises. It's like a 40-minute session, one-on-one, where like 20 minutes of the work that you're doing with him is heavy weights. You're doing weightlifting, and then the second 20 minutes you're doing like cardio conditioning. So I was working out with him for a significant amount of time, and my strength was going up. We did a certain amount of like how much can I max with the weights, doing certain like squats, deadlifts, bench press, etc. And then based on that, we were able to see that after a few weeks that those numbers, my maxes were going up. So I think in one case my squats like doubled. So I was really getting in shape. As for the cardio and the conditioning, what happened was, again, I'm just like somehow out of shape. I'm not necessarily like, I can't like run a marathon, but that's something that never like really improved. His cardio conditioning was not something like if you go to like a local YMCA and you're doing like a cardio class, where you're just doing jumping jacks and like running in place. It wasn't like that type of stuff. It was you're doing box jumps, you're flipping tires, you're kettlebell swings, you're carrying a kettlebell like across like his yard, etc. So the cardio conditioning stuff was pretty intense. And after almost every time I did cardio with him, I would just like have to lay down on his back porch, on his back deck, and I had to catch my breath. So after about, I think it was like 4 or 5 months of working out with him, again I got like super strong, but the cardio conditioning like never really picked up. It was after like a workout of some sort that we did. Again, we were just like box jumping, etc. And he said, Adil, you have been working out with me. It's like 4 or 5 months. Something's got to be going on with your heart. Why don't you go see a cardiologist and try to figure out like if there's something going on with your heart, we need to know about it. Like you're not increasing your game, your performance is not necessarily improving. So I booked an appointment with a cardiologist, and the cardiologist, when you come in, they do blood work. They did like an echo where they do like a sonogram of your heart. They check your throat, and then ultimately they did something called a stress test. A stress test is where they put you on a treadmill, and they connect you with a bunch of EKG wires, and they're monitoring your heart as you're going for a walk, as you're going for a run. So the treadmill starts at a level playing field, where you're just walking like at a flat level, and you're going about 2.5 miles an hour. And every minute, every 60 seconds, it's supposed to like slightly incline and then also start going a little bit faster. So within the first minute, I was able to hit my target heart rate, which means that maybe something's going on, like it wasn't clear, but I was able to hit that target heart rate. The doctor was there and he said, Adil, keep running on the treadmill. Let's see how long you can last. I was able to go for another 2 minutes at my target heart rate or even higher. I was just pushing past it. Again, at this point, the incline was already higher and faster, and the speed, of course, increased as well. So I'm running, I'm out of breath, but I'm still staying on the treadmill. I think I went for another few minutes, and then at some point I had to jump off the treadmill. I just couldn't take it anymore. I was out of breath. The doctor, as soon as you jump off the stress test, as soon as you jump off the treadmill, they're double checking, triple checking how fast you can recover from a push. And I was able to come to a place where my heart can rest like within 60 seconds. I had like it was actually a very good thing. So the doctor's looking over all the notes and looking at everything from the cardio. I mean, everything was clear in terms of my sonogram. Everything worked very well for my stress test. And the cardiologist ultimately said that if there is something going on, it's not cardiac. There's nothing going on with your heart. Your heart is totally clear. Everything's working 100%. So I threw my arms up in the air. I don't know what was going on. Why can't I work out? The next day, the cardiologist calls me up and he said that we received the results of your blood work, and your numbers are very low. Your blood cell count is very low and your hemoglobins are super low. And this resembles to me like leukemia. This is what the cardiologist was telling me. This looks to me like leukemia, and you should go immediately to check yourself in at a very specific cancer center in their emergency room, and you're going to be spending the weekend there. I have a wife, I have kids, and I'm a Sabbath observer, so for me to not even be home and have to be present just to go immediately to the ER was very, it's just scary news. I ultimately called my wife, I called my mom, told them what was going on, ran to the hospital. And the hospital, it wasn't like immediate, you have to check yourself in and you have to go through the process. They had to do blood work, and they asked me a number of questions. But ultimately, the cardiologist communicated with the hospital and sent them over the results, and the doctors at the hospital started to work with me. They drew bloods. Again, they were asking me a number of questions. They ultimately did a bone marrow biopsy, which is not a comfortable experience. It's not too bad, but it's also not something that, like you will be sore for a few days if you have that kind of procedure done. But it's their way of looking into your bone marrow to see if something problematic is happening there. They did the bone marrow biopsy, and later that evening, this was all on a Friday. Later that evening, the doctors came back to me and they said that we don't know what you have, but you do not have leukemia. And I was grateful. I was happy. I think like that Saturday night, they let me stay in the hospital for the next day. But that Saturday night, I got to walk out of the oncology ward. I'm just happy and grateful that what I have is not leukemia. It's not cancer. So it took a while for the doctors to figure it out. The doctors couldn't figure it out. My numbers were low, but this is not leukemia. And they came to the conclusion that this was something called LGL, which stands for large granular lymphocytes, which is nothing. It's really like a blood disorder. I don't know what the treatment is for that. I didn't think of it anything more than just anemia. I thought it was just something simple like, okay, every once in a while I'll go get a blood infusion, or maybe I should start changing my diet. I'll start eating iron, etc. We had a consultation with an oncologist at this particular hospital, and they told us that, first of all, my diet is fine. I eat, perfectly normal foods. Adding more iron to my diet is not necessarily going to change anything. And it could be that this LGL is not necessarily conclusive. But again, it's not leukemia. Initially, the hospital gave me some leukemia pills, just to immediately treat it. It was like an oral, it was a pill. They gave me like 5 of them, just immediately attack the leukemia. I didn't have it. I had no problems. So they put me on prednisone for a short amount of time. I think it was like 20 milligrams, and they tapered me off 20 milligrams, 15 milligrams, 10 milligrams, and then 5 until I was able to get off of some sort of steroid. They thought that they would be able to better identify what was happening with my blood if I was dealing with the steroid. And I may not be 100% accurate with how I'm telling over the story, so I'm trying to be as accurate as possible. Ultimately, so that was like a month later when I had that second consult for the LGL. Ultimately, the doctors reviewed my bone marrow on a molecular level, and they determined that what I have is myelodysplastic syndrome, MDS. And the only curative solution that they have for the MDS would be to perform a bone marrow transplant. Now, I had no idea what a bone marrow transplant is or was. I've heard about it in the past. I heard about people like swabbing for it, and I don't know what was involved on my part. For me, it was just like terrifying news that like I'd have to go through some sort of procedure, which is again why I'm kind of documenting this so that sometime after I'm gone, someone will watch this video and see that maybe it may not be so bad. And as of the time of this video, I have not yet had the bone marrow transplant. That's actually going to be happening in about 2 weeks from today. Um, but this is how I came to discover how that the fact that I have MDS. It was me wanting to work out, me wanting to get in shape, me not being able to perform, and then ultimately going to a doctor to perform blood work and discovering that my numbers were low. So that's how everything came about. I have a ton more to share with you guys. Subscribe to my channel, follow me, see how I perform. Hopefully we can push through this bone marrow transplant. And I hope to speak to you some more soon.